Hey guys, Marshall here from Lumina Resources, and we're doing a few more constructed here. And I figured you guys like the vintage. We'll stick with the vintage. I'm having fun with it. And we're still going to be playing this bug deck to start with. This is a deck that is basically a tempo deck. And, now we can't keep this one. I mean, we have some spells we can actually cast, but none of them really get us where we need to go. So we're going to mulligan. Yeah, this is a lot more like it. With this hand, we can make a turn 1 Dark Confidant with Force of Will backup. And that's pretty tough to beat right there. So let's play a Mox Jet. And do I want to crack this thing? I don't think it matters. No, I don't think it does. All right, so let's play a Dark Confidant. All right, we made a Dark Confidant. This is actually one of the best turn 1 plays we can make for this deck, is a Dark Confidant. This deck doesn't have the ability to super combo power off like many of the decks in the format does. It's a little bit more of a kind of a tempo grindy deck, I would say. That's, I guess, how I would describe this deck. Very powerful. A lot of really powerful, really good cards, but nothing quite along the... All right, he's going to try to lightning bolt my Bob, and I am going to counter it. Oh, maybe he's not. Oh, we get Bob activations. This is great. And he's even got a friend. Yeah, these aren't really the best draws for us here, but they'll work. The only card that really burns us with Dark Confidant is this one. We got 4 of those. Everything else is 3 mana or less, 2 mana or less, like pretty low. All right, there's a Delver. I'll accept a Delver. We have many, many answers to a Delver of Secrets in our deck, and with 2 Dark Confidants going, we can expect to find one consistently enough so that I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, this has been super fun to play Vintage. And let's see if we can hit something here. No. No. Got one more draw, though. And no. Okay, so we kind of bricked off here, but still we only took a couple of damage, and I think we're in a pretty good spot. Unfortunately, the prospect of attacking doesn't look great here, so I'm just going to play my land and send the turn back here. Interestingly, we don't have double blue, so we can't actually hard cast Force, which is a little awkward. But again, I think just the fact that we have 2 Dark Confidants going means that we are very likely to win the long game and find an answer for this Insectal Aberration. We knew that that was going to flip over. Let's see, it was a Brainstorm in this case. And here's a Gush. So this is kind of the main card that our opponent is playing is Gush. And I'm going to go ahead and Force of Will this Gush. I'm going to exile Steel Sabotage because I don't think there's anything really great for Steel Sabotage to hit. Steel Sabotage is more of a, it's like a, how do you put it? It's like a safety valve. So if somebody tries to make a big Blightsteel Colossus or whatever, you can just boop, bounce it right back to their hand where it gets stuck ostensibly forever. Also, there's a few key artifacts like Time Vault and Voltaic Key, and if you just counter those, then it will shut off the other one if that's their plan. Is like a lot of times you'll see people start off with a Voltaic Key or a Time Vault, and eventually they'll find a tutor to find the other piece, and you can break up the combo by countering it. All right, so he Brainstorms, and then I'm assuming we're going to get countered back in some fashion. And we don't, though. Can live with that. Interesting question is if our opponent wants to start beating us down. actually can't do anything about that because Flusterstorm doesn't counter Snapcaster. Now our opponent definitely wants to start beating down. I'm just going to let that happen. Now that our opponent's down on mana again, our Flusterstorm should still be live for something better than a Preordain. So we're going to take 3 here and then hope to just hit some removal off of our Dark Confidants. If we do, I think we're in a pretty good spot. We've ran a little light on the removal here, though. There's pseudo removal, and that's a good one, too. And that's a good one, too. So those are all really nice draws for us. So I think we Demonic Tutor and get Ancestral Recall. I think that that's just sort of where we should start here. Yeah, and then we'll see what kind of land situation we're in and what we want to do. But like we could, so here we could get Abrupt Decay just to kill the thing, and that's fine. We get something like True Name Nemesis or Trigon Predator, which would basically trade, but it also just like dies to a lightning bolt. We could get Jace the Mind Sculptor and cast him next turn, probably. I mean, the chances we hit a land are pretty good. We could also play Deathrite to make sure that we can do it after we crack our Misty, so we could get that. But I think the easiest route is Ancestral and just draw all of it, right? Like we could just draw a Jace, we could just draw a True Name or any of these things, and this is the cheapest way to do that. So let's drop down to 8 life here. We are going to need to hit something. Yeah. Let's see if our opponent has a mental misstep. It's quite likely. Sweet. There we go. Now we're in business. Now we can strip this, or wasteland it as it were, and then Abrupt Decay the Insectal Aberration as well. So let's do that. That shuts off further gushes as well, which is really nice. And interestingly, we could even get super aggressive and take out the Mox Ruby at some point. We could also kill Snapcaster Mage and get in for 4 damage here, but I think this is more important. I might be wrong. It is actually only 1 damage difference, because what's going to happen is we're going to kill Aberration, but our opponent's going to still attack with Snapcaster. I guess that does give us the option to trade off one of our Bobs. We are pretty loaded on cards here. So if I kill Snapcaster and attack, opponent goes to 14, we go to 5 with 2 Bobs. That is a little too risky, I think. Even though we're going to have Deathrite and Scavenging Ooze coming up, I think we're just going to have to sit back here. Or I could actually attack with 1. Oh, that's interesting. Let's do that. Let's attack with 1 of them. This basically signals to my opponent that I'm okay with one of my Dark Confidants dying. And I think I am okay with one of them dying here. Yeah, my opponent is too. All right, so let's get Abrupt. And what we're hoping for here is that, so we don't have any defense, but we're hoping that our opponent is just crimped enough on land, thanks to our wasteland and his attempt at a gush earlier, that we're okay. All right, another Delver, and the turn gets passed. All right, so this is a big one. If we flip a Force of Will, which we did, and then a Trigon Predator, brutal. That sucks. I mean, we could have killed our own Bob before the next flip, but I think the numbers are with us. Look at our deck. Look at that. All of these, this whole brick of things here doesn't kill us. And this little section over here does, with 2 of these missing. Anyway, it happens sometimes with Bob. And we're facing a fairly aggressive deck on the other side. So I've brought in these, I've started playing these Shrivels for this matchup. And I don't know how good they are, but I'm going to try them out. And I'm going to play the Duresses as well. Just to keep our opponent off balance here. That was not too great. So what do we want to cut? The Steel Sabotage was a pretty easy cut. I think we didn't really need that. Scavenging Ooze. It's nice to gain life, but we've got 4 Deathrite Shamans that serve a similar purpose. I don't think True Name is particularly good against this deck. Neither is Click. Trigon Predator's good against them. Mental Misstep is sweet. Flusterstorm can go. I don't expect a big storm finish from our opponent. I would like to play first, though. Oh, yes. Yes, this is very good. Yeah, so I think we just brute force the Ancestral Recall here, and it force either a misstep, which we will misstep, or force a Force of Will from our opponent. And I think that either of those is quite nice. So let's actually, but if we do that, we go to 6, 5, 6, 7. We have to discard? No, we don't have to discard. Yay for Moxen. All right, so Ancestral us. And it worked. Very nice. I wonder if I should have, just looking back, I wonder if I should have played Mox Sapphire and done that, and that way I could play any land, and if we would have drawn, like, this land Mox Dark Confidant, then I could have actually played it. That's interesting. Just something to consider for the future. As you guys, I'm sure, are aware, I am very new to Vintage, and I'm figuring it out as we go. So a lot of these plays are me just sort of piecing together what I know versus what makes sense to me and just going with it and then kind of reviewing that after the fact. I think I let preordains happen. Like, I have a misstep, but it just counters so many really important things like his creatures and, you know, bigger spells like Brainstorm and that kind of thing that I think I just let him have it. All right, there's a Shrivel. That's an interesting one. Given that I drew a Shrivel, I wonder if I just went Trigon Predator over Dark Confidant here. Yeah, I'm going to go for that. This also preventatively makes our opponents playing Moxen a lot worse. They get to use them for basically a turn. Also, Trigon Predator is kind of tough to kill. My plan is to play Jace next turn, just windmill. Ooh, 2 different ones. Boo. So the way that this deck works that we're playing against, by the way, is pretty interesting. Force of Will, please. Duress. Very good. Excellent. So our opponent very likely has a mana drain in their hand. That's what they're representing here. And Duress is great because we're not going to run Jason to mana drain. But what we can do is Duress and then play Dark Confidant. That's nice. So what I was saying before, let's just take 1 minute to go over what our opponent's deck. It's called Gush, and it's based off that card Gush that lets you return 2 islands to your owner's hand, which they might have here as well. Instead of paying its mana cost, and you get to draw 2 cards. But they can be untapped islands. So, like, these are both islands. So, for example, our opponent this turn could draw 2 cards, tap both of them, counter something. Pyroblast. Destroy target permanent if it's blue. You know, I do think I actually want to protect this. Trigon Predator can be so good. And then mental misstep me back. Okay. I accept. So this cleared the way now for Jace. And I am going to go for Jace here. This basically says you must have a Force of Will. We have a lot of black cards. So I'll use this. Big Daddy. So now you look here at the life total to see if it goes down to 18. And it does. So we get to 2 for 1 our opponent here, though, which is nice. And they exiled, ooh, a Fire and Ice. Oh, man. This is working out pretty nicely for us. Fire and Ice, 2 damage divided as you choose among 2 target creatures or players. I wonder where that could have gone. Anyway, so the Gush, they call it the Gush engine. There's a couple different versions of this deck, but mainly they play Young Pyromancer, and then they recur Gush a bunch of times to make just a billion tokens and then kill you with those. All right, so this looks like a good spot to go for a Duress. So let's do that. Duress and see where our opponent's at. With only 3 cards left, Duress should do quite a bit of work. All right, just a bare Force of Will and a couple of lands. So now we get to kind of take over this board here and go bob into what's essentially an empty board. Anyway, so that's the idea, though. Gush, and then some of the versions will run Storm cards in it as well. And then there's other versions that will run cards like you can play one exploration in this format, and they will just simply dump their hand. What did you draw? You drew a Snapcaster Mage, you monster. So I guess we're just preordaining here. Yeah, I mean, that's good, though. That's a nice draw. It's going to keep pressure off of our opponent and help him find some gas. Yeah, that's definitely a good draw. We've got a dead Shrivel in our hand here. But this seemed a lot better. All right, let's not flip over any more dark, what's it called? And an Abrupt Decay. Very nice. So this actually works out pretty well for us. We will take down the Volcanic Island. Cast blue. And we will go black. Oops. Yeah, I did that wrong. All right. Green, black. And let's just get this thing out of the way right now. We've got Spell Pierce. And that thing's uncounterable, so the beats. And this is important for us to keep pressure on because we are on our own clock thanks to 2 Dark Confidants. But Spell Pierce does a lot of work in this format. Can be very strong. We're also trying to deny our opponent mana whenever possible. You can see that that's why we're running these wastelands. Okay. All right, well, we didn't take any damage, so that's kind of cool. Got another Snappy? Oh, you sure do. All right, this one's not going to do much. Excuse me. As what is he going to target? Pyroblast? Yeah, just for second main. But it is going to trade off for a Dark Confidant, which is certainly a big deal. And your turn. So yeah, we need to hit some stuff. It kind of doesn't matter what we hit. We can hit some of our big restricted spells, and this is pretty easy. Get that guy out of here. All right, barely hanging on with Bob here. Let's go, buddy. Find us something sweet. Good. Good. Yeah, we can actually just cast that. So let's keep these lands at bay here and keep beating down. And yeah, we can just hard cast a Force of Will. So whatever our opponent draws next as far as action goes, we can just blanket, which is great. It'll basically buy us a full turn with Dark Confidant at least, and it looks like it might get us even more than that. And yes, this is getting good. Deathrite Shaman in this type of situation is quite strong. Because you can use Deathrite Shaman to increase your clock, or you can use it to keep your life total high if Dark Confidant's getting a little greedy. All right, and our opponent's going to concede. Okay. I didn't really see much different, and so I'm just going to submit this deck again. See if we can pick up a Game 3 win here. The deck our opponent's playing is quite powerful, so we've pretty happy to have gotten this far. All right, is this a keep? Basically, we get this to go get Ancestral, and if it doesn't work, we're kind of screwed. I'm going to mulligan this. I'll keep this one. This one, I think that the Wastelands can be really good, and if we need to, I mean, we'll probably find black mana. Yeah, this works out. Let's Wasteland here. So if our opponent had played a turn 1 creature, you know, like a Delver of Secrets, we could be in some trouble. But they didn't, so we get to get maximum value off Wasteland, and then we get to kind of clean up with the Deathrite Shaman later. So let's play a Deathrite Shaman now because our opponent did not crack their fetch land. And And Deathrite resolves, so that's great. That gives us mana. And now we have a new target for our... Ooh, Ancestral, though. That's going to make our life a lot more difficult. We're going to hopefully get our own Ancestral, but when they get the first one, it makes it a lot harder to get it going. They are going to have to discard, though, it looks like, which is pretty sweet. Random land goes away. I'm trying to decide if I want to Wasteland here and just get rid of the Volcanic, or if it's better to play a Misty Rainforest, get a black mana source, and go Demonic right now. I think I'd rather Wasteland. Also, I can do the Demonic this turn if I really want. Like, I can just cast it right now. That seems actually pretty good. Let's do that. Most people don't Force a Will the Demonic Tutor. They try to Force a Will whatever it is that you get with it. But our plan actually works pretty well against that because we've got Spell Pierce. So let's get Ancestral, ship the turn back, and try to stay ahead on mana. The downside to this plan, of course, is that with the Wastelands, our opponent's probably going to have lands for the duration. They've drawn a bunch of extra cards this turn, or this game. What are you thinking about? Maybe playing a 1-drop? Another thing I have to consider is using Deathrite Shaman to make sure that this Ancestral doesn't get flashed back by a Snapcaster Mage. All right, there's the young Pyromancer that we've heard so much about. It's about time he showed up. So let us Ancestral Recall. See if we can't find a Shrivel at some point in the next few turns. All right, there's the Misstep. And let's see. So if this resolves, we could hit a black Mox that would let us get that Ancestral out of there. Yeah, so let's Spell Pierce with actual mana. That resolves. Deathrite does a really, really nice job at holding back those things. So we're having a full-on fight over this Ancestral here. Definitely could see our opponent Force a Willing back the Spell Pierce. Be pretty reasonable. Or the Ancestral itself. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we get some pretty good value out of that, though. We get 3 cards out of our opponent's hand for 2 cards out of ours, which is generally quite nice. But our opponent is going to start making a bunch of these things, and we didn't actually get the force through. So the worst case scenario here is that our opponent plays a land and then Snapcaster's back Ancestral here. That would be fairly disastrous for us. Easily make this trade. Oh no. Yeah, this is bad. Yeah, this is real bad. Oh, 3 mana. Oh, Dak. Wow. Dak Faden quite strong here too. And yeah, our opponent's going to be digging, let's see, discarded Jace and Pyroblast, so really just wants counters, I suppose. Force. Force doesn't do much here. We need to find a Jace the Mind Sculptor. All right, he resolves. So yeah, let's brainstorm. Brainstorm into force of will stuff, I think seems good. Go like that so we can get that land out of there and ship the turn back. And at least as the board sits, our Jace is protected, because we would gladly make this trade. Definitely a close game here, though. Bolt Jace. Okay, so this is going to bolt me, and that means that I must mental misstep, and I cannot. I have to pay the 2 life, because if I tap my shaman to make mana, I can't block anymore. Desperately trying to hold on to Jace, and it's not going to happen. Okay. Oh, you're going to bolt this. Yeah, that makes sense now. And unfortunately, our force of will doesn't do much here. So, tough spot here for us. Back-to-back lightning bolts from our opponent is going to make our life very difficult. And we need to draw something amazing here. Snapcaster Mage would be fantastic. Shrivel. Of course, I already knew what we were going to draw. What am I talking about? Right. Okay. All right, little Deathrite Shaman. Do your best. Keep us alive. Oh, man. Give me that shrivel one time. Oh, my God. Shrivel. Please. I guess you can attack with Young Pyromancer now. Which deals like 5 to me. I have to crack this fetch because my next card is an Underground Sea. Okay. No problem. Take 2. All right. So let's protect against this real quick. I just don't want to have him draw Snapcaster Mage and just completely destroy me with it. Okay. And Shrivel. Forest. Boo. All right, we don't have too many turns now. All right, that helps though. That really does help. Okay, I think I'm going to counter this, because this lets him set up getting the Delver flip for sure, and that's really bad for us. And I think he just attacks with the team here. All right, so this is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, I'll just block one of these things and take 8, and we have a turn to find Shrivel. Trigon. Shoot. Yeah, that's not going to do it. We had our plan. But let's see, even if we go to 7, I think we're just dead here. Oh, yuck. Extra yuck. Text with everything, so we go block, block, take 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're at exactly 7 after Deathrite, so that's going to do it. All right, so a good close one, but we weren't able to quite win. We'll try again, though.